Today on Bench Briefs, we're looking at a landmark Supreme Court of Canada decision that reshaped how the justice system handles individuals found not criminally responsible due to mental disorder. This case, R v. Swain, decided in 1991, tackles important questions about liberty, mental health, and the rights of accused persons. So, what happens when someone is found not criminally responsible, often called NCRMD? And how does the law balance public safety with individual freedoms? Let's dive in. The story begins with the appellant, Mr. Swain, who was charged with assault causing bodily harm. During his trial, evidence about his mental state came to light, and the court found that he was not criminally responsible on account of a mental disorder. In other words, at the time of the offense, he was suffering from a mental condition that made him incapable of understanding the nature or wrongfulness of his actions. Now, here's where it gets complicated. After this finding, the trial judge ordered Swain's detention in a psychiatric facility. This wasn't a fixed sentence or a set time frame. It was an indefinite detention, meaning Swain could be held for as long as deemed necessary. This raised serious concerns. Was it fair or even constitutional to detain someone indefinitely without a separate hearing specifically addressing whether they were dangerous or needed treatment? Swain's case challenged the procedures under the criminal code that allowed for such detention without additional safeguards. The key legal questions before the Supreme Court were these. First, did the procedures for handling accused persons found NCRMD violate the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, especially the right to liberty and security of the person? Second, does indefinite detention without a separate hearing infringe on these constitutional rights? And finally, what procedural protections must be in place to ensure that the rights of NCRMD accused individuals are respected while also addressing public safety concerns? At the heart of the matter is a tension between two critical values. On one side, there is the state's responsibility to protect the public from individuals who may pose a danger due to mental illness. On the other, there is the fundamental right to liberty and fair treatment under the law. The Supreme Court had to decide how to strike the right balance. What the court found was significant. It ruled that the existing procedures did indeed violate the charter. Indefinite detention without a separate independent hearing on dangerousness or treatment needs was not justifiable. The court emphasized that individuals found NCRMD cannot be treated like typical criminal offenders who serve fixed sentences. Instead, they must have their liberty interests carefully protected through procedural safeguards. The decision underscored the importance of a distinct review process. This means that after someone is found NCRMD, there must be a timely and fair hearing before a review board or tribunal to assess whether continued detention is necessary based on current risk and treatment considerations. This review process ensures that detention isn't automatic or arbitrary, but grounded in evidence and subject to ongoing oversight. R v. Swain set a precedent that reshaped the legal landscape for mental health and criminal law in Canada. It recognized that while public safety is paramount, it cannot come at the expense of constitutional rights. The ruling led to reforms that require meaningful procedural protections for accused persons found NCRMD, including regular reviews of their status and the opportunity to challenge continued detention. In the bigger picture, this case highlights the legal system's evolving understanding of mental illness and criminal responsibility. It acknowledges that mental disorder requires a different approach, one that respects individual dignity and liberty while addressing safety concerns through careful, evidence-based procedures. Swain reminds us that justice must be both fair and compassionate, especially when dealing with vulnerable individuals caught at the intersection of law and mental health. For listening to this episode of Bench Briefs. Join us next time as we explore another important case that shapes Canadian law and the rights of people in our justice system. Until then, take care.